That's it. I'm not going to let Larry and Troy and Dolly and everybody have all the fun. I got to get up and read the Hebrew in the original language. Hebrew is the only language to ever be revived and used again after it dies. Every other language that has ever been used died. That was it. And it says, there's debate about a prophecy even that says that we would return to Hebrew. And in Zephaniah, I believe, 3:9. Anyway, and I think it's talking about the end times. So I don't think it was necessarily a prophecy that but we're on our way. We're somebody's got to be able to speak it when we get to the millennium, and somebody's got to teach it to everybody else. Yeah, I don't know if I have much more than that anyway on why bar mitzvah. Let's get into Exodus. Let's get down to it. So, I don't know if this thing's going to be big enough. All right. Now, I read Exodus 10. And right there in the first verse is a phrase, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And the first time that I came to bed, I had tons of questions. I was like, look, nobody seems to be able to explain this or that or this or that. You guys know, And one of them was, why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? What is he doing over and over and over and over again in Exodus? 19 times. It's mentioned God hardening, or, we'll see who's doing the hardening. But it mentions the hardening of a heart 19 times in Exodus. Why is this happening? What's going on? And the answer that I got at the time, pure and simple, because when God says he's going to do something, that's what he's going to do. Okay, so seems to get pretty extreme, though. There seem to be some deep implications of what's going on when God is hardening Pharaoh's heart. And so that's the perspective that I'm going to come at Exodus from today, because it was right there in my portion, and it just screamed. That was the first question, one of the first questions I had when I came here. There's actually 4 words used, 3 root words, and all kinds of different forms that they appear of hardening, but they don't all necessarily mean harden. They've all been translated harden in the Old King James, but the word chazak is one of the words used for harden, and it is to seize, to fasten upon, to strengthen, to fortify, to be strong, to be made mighty. Okay, that one sounds like it could be hardened, but it's also to magnify, to put yourself up, to be bigger, to be better than. And other forms imply strength. Okay, so the next word, chavad, is to be heavy. In a bad sense, it means burdensome or severe or dull. In a good sense, it can mean numerous, rich, or honorable. And I forgot to say that first word appears 290 times in root form. Now, that means that it's translated as seize, it's translated as fasten upon, it's translated as strength in different places for different contexts. And all of them in Exodus are translated harden. But in the Old King James. But when I'm reading my Chumash, which is my interlinear right here with all the Hebrew and the English right below it, right? As you go along, it tends to kind of make some distinction between strengthen Pharaoh's heart and harden Pharaoh's heart and made Pharaoh's heart heavy and things like this. This is the same word, rich or honorable in a good sense, is the same word to describe how rich Abraham was or something like this. So it has lots of meanings. Anyway, moving on. That word appears 115 times in root form. And a similar word, which looks like the same root to me, chavad, chabed, means it could be slow or thick or laden. burdensome. So it's similar to the same root as the first one. The third one, kasha, is dense, tough, severe, cruel, fierce, grievous, sore, or stiff. So you can see how, even though they have their own little nuances, they all could be translated hardened, and that's what we'll use today, because I was studying in my King James, and I've got it open here. But that would be another why. Why are we here doing this? Hebrew, like I said, this word 290 times appears in so many different forms, and it's all contextualized. It's deeply sewn into that sentence that you're reading. It can only read that way in that sentence. Take it, put it somewhere else, it's going to read differently. And sometimes that's confusing, but sometimes that's the best thing about Hebrew. When God... Alright, so we'll start with the burning bush. Moses is standing before the burning bush, and God, he says, tell him, who am I going to say, in whose name am I coming? Right? I'm going to say I'm coming in the name of, God, but you're going to ask which God, who? Because the Egyptians had thousands of gods. I don't think you could just roll in and say God, so he's got to give a name. And God, of course, gives I love God's sense of humor. He gives like the archaic answer, you know what I mean? He couldn't just give him a name. He gives him, I am that I am. Ahyeh, Asher, Ahyeh. Right? And that root, Ahyeh, is from the same word as Hayah. Asher, Hayah. Right? And that phrase, I am that I am, first the word Asher, that. Well, that's also, I am who I am. I am that which I am. I am because I am. I am, if you go through the dictionary definition of Asher and stick every one of those in there, it reads like, I am where I am. I am what I am. I am who I am. I am when I am. Right? And then you look at the word, Hayah, that root, and it's so much more than I am. It's a being verb, to be, the isness, the utility, the very essence of, and being, and so I am that I am is, is, it's essence in its most basic form. That says everything. And so it sounds like an arcane answer, I'm going to tell them what? I am sent me? Right? Sent me. Right? But it's so much deeper and so much heavier, and so that's why I gave you also the definitions of the different forms of hardening. Anyway, the first hardening is in Exodus 4:21. It's on the way back to Israel after the burning bush incident and right after the circumcision incident. And he's on his way back to Israel. He's going to go deal with Pharaoh. And God tells him on the way back that, I didn't write this one out. I wrote all the other ones up, but I didn't write this one out. Anyway, it says, I will harden. This first one appears in prophetic form. I will harden. So he says he's going to do it. So first of all, and this is the first appearance in the whole Bible of the word in this form. And so Greg was just talking about law of first mentions. You can for any given subject in the Bible, you can go to the first place where that's mentioned. Love is mentioned for the first time when God is talking about how he loves Isaac, right? And so many words when they're mentioned for the first time just really give you the definition right there in the sentence, so that every time you come upon this now for the rest of the Bible, I already defined it in that first one. And it works perfectly here for this. This is the first time this root word is used in this form for this meaning. And it says, I will harden. It's said to have the purpose of threatening to kill the firstborn. So he says he's going to do that too. And he's going to harden his heart so that he can kill the firstborn. And because Israel is God's firstborn, it says that right in there. Israel is God's firstborn, so Pharaoh will lose his firstborn. Causes more work for Israel. this first hardening, because they go to Pharaoh, they, let my people go, you know the story. And and Pharaoh, the first thing that he does is says, okay, I'm not going to give you any straw, no straw for you, you're going out and collecting the same amount of brick and making the same amount of brick, but you're not going to be provided with any straw, so you're going to glean all of it, and you're going to have to gather it all together. And the Jews get very upset about this, to the point where they say some not so nice things and altercate, But one thing I wanted to point out about this first hardening is that it's God doing the hardening, and we'll get to why I'm pointing that out here in a little bit.